Hey everyone, my name is Ian, and this is the second part of today's tutorial series on our text-based Choose Your Own Adventure game. Now, in this video, we'll be starting out on our Python program, where we connect to the database we've created and obtain the records from it. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Alright, so if you haven't already, go ahead and open up Visual Studios 2022, and as you can see, this is the main screen where we can create a new project. So go ahead and click Create New Project, and make sure you have Python selected, and just do Python Application. Click Next, and then go ahead and change your project name. So I'm going to go and name this text-based adventure, txt adventure, maybe? Yeah, txt adventure, sure. And then just save it on any location that you want to save it on, and make sure you place the same solution and project in the same directory. And then just create. Okay, perfect. So now we've created our text adventure Python file, and this is where we can edit our Python program, and this is our field. So now what I would like you to do is, before we actually get started on this, is to actually add your database or your file into our program, or into our program file. So go ahead and right click on text adventure, and then just click open folder in file explorer. All right, so there's our file here, all opened, and what I want you to do is go ahead and add your SQL database here. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna go and look for it, and then I'll skip to that part. All right, and just go ahead and just move it to the location, and that should actually be it in terms of adding our database into our program. So let's go ahead and we can close that now, and when you see here, you can see story.db is added to our text environment, or to our environment. And what you actually want to do is go ahead and right click this and click include in project, just so that's there. All right, now let's go in straight into our program. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to import the SQLite 3 module to our Python program. And what this pretty much does is that it helps us connect to our database and execute SQL query commands to the program. So I'll show you that in a few seconds. What we'll do first is we'll connect to our database. And to do that, what we need to do is we need to call the connect command from our module. So that's the SQLite3.connect. And we got to choose which database we connect to. Obviously, we only have the one, so that's going to be the story.db. And I'm going to store this in a variable called con, short for connect. And what this allows us is it allows us to refer back to the connection when we need. In which we actually do need right now when we create a cursor. And what a cursor does is it allows us to manage and execute SQL query commands within our database. So that's just con.cursor. And there you go, we've created the connection. All right, now we're going to go ahead and extract records from our database. So extract records, I can type from database. And if you guys remember, we have the choices table and the outcomes table. So we're going to grab all the records from there and pretty much put it into our program. And we'll tamper with it here in our Python program. So I'll go ahead and do the choices table first. So choices table equals, and to be able to grab it, what we need to do is we need to grab the cursor and execute a SQL query command. So that's cursor.execute. And the command that we're going to execute is we're going to go select all. So we're going to get everything from our choices table. All right, and then we're just going to fetch all. I'll show you here what that does. I'm just going to print the choices table now. And there you go. So as you can see, it created a two-dimensional array where it has each row, or each row, and then within the row is a column. So that's the index, there's the flavor text, and then that's the outcome that it's referring to. So yeah, and to be able to grab that, we're just going to do any 2D array calling for elements. So that's the 0 index, for example, if we want to grab the first element of our array. And then let's get the flavor text, which is the first index, so the second element of our array. And as you can see there, if I start again, we only have the continue straight ahead, deeper into the water. Perfect. If you have any questions as to how arrays work, please let me know. I'll be happy to be able to answer your questions, I should say. All right, so that's the choices table. Now we'll do the outcomes table, and literally exact same thing. So if anything, I'm actually just going to copy and paste this and change the choices into outcomes. And I'll just make sure that I didn't name it anything different. It was outcomes. Yep, there you go. So there's all our data from the outcomes table. All right, so now that we've connected to our database and pretty much extracted all the records that we need from our database, we actually won't touch the database anymore after this, unless we want to make changes, of course. But look, we've extracted it all, and we're sure that our story is set in stone, so we won't be extracting any more data or changing and manipulating the database itself. So now let's actually get straight into the game. And before we start going into the loop of the game and going into the mechanics of it, we actually need to create some variables first. And these variables is what's essential to the game and what we need to pretty much align with the data that we've extracted. So I'm just going to go at the very top here, and I'm just going to say create and define variables. All right, so the first variable that we want to create is obviously is the game running, or is the game you know, still within the loop? Has it not, it's not ending, you still need to make choices, or is it game over? So that is game running. Now I sometimes I sometimes just want to shorten this, so if anything I'll just shorten it to game. So game, and that is equal to true. So right now the game is running. And the next variable we want to know is the outcome ID. And pretty much what this allows us to do is it allows us to know what outcome will happen within our game. So if we choose this choice, then what outcome will come out? So I'm just gonna set that to 0 for now, and not declare anything or not define anything yet. And then next is, well, after choosing what outcome, we have the outcome text. So this will show us, well, what, you know, what the next part is, or what the outcome is. Now we got to do is, if you remember from our outcomes table, we have the choices required. And this allows us to determine whether we need the choice or we don't, you know. Is this going to be a outcome thing, or is this going to be a choice that we need to make? So that's, if you remember from our database, it's either a 0 or a 1. So that's not actually going to be true or false. I'm just going to put that as 0 for now. And then the next is our choices. So whether we have which choice we have on choice 1, which choice we have on choice 2, and which choice we have on choice 3. So super simple, choice 1 equals 0, choice 2 equals 0, and choice 3 equals 0. Now, if you have any more choices than that, than 3 choices, then feel free to add more. Again, like I said on the previous video, the sweet spot I tend to find is 3 choices. Now, we will be refining this actually in probably the next video, where we won't be having this much clutter, especially if you have 10 choices, for example. You're not going to list out, well, 10 choices at the bottom. So that will be refined. All right, so before we actually get into the main program part of the game, what I want to do is I want to turn your attention to the back into our outcomes table. Now, I forgot to mention this on the last video, but the top three rows, I should say, from our outcomes table are actually unique rows. What do I mean by this is, well, as you can see there, the first row, or ID 1, has game over, and this doesn't have any choice, nor is there any, like, you know, any other next outcome to go through. And same with the second one, which is you win. So as you can see, there's no choice, and there's nothing to go through. Now, for the third one, you choose whether to go straight or right. I actually call this the starting outcome, or the starting choice, I should say. And what that pretty much does is that this is where our game starts. This is the text that will be shown to our character, and then we will make him have a choice, or you know, whether it's to go straight or go right, based on our choices table. So that's the initial choice, I should say, or the initial outcome, and that's what we'll actually be writing on our game. Now, another thing that I actually forgot to specify is that if you have any outcome that leads to another outcome, this actually gets put into our choice 1. Now, I know it's not a choice, but it still gets put there. So for example, this one here, 6, there's no choice required, but there's another outcome coming to it, and that's 7, which means that it will lead to number 7. And then 7 goes into 8, and then 8 goes into, well, 1, which is game over. So if you are going to do something like that, just make sure that you put the next outcome on our choice 1 table. All right, so now that I've actually said that, let's go ahead and get started into our game. So I'm going to put a break line here that shows that this is the start of the game. Now, before we start asking our players what choice they want to make, we actually need to set the scene for them first. And pretty much this gives us just, you know, a little introduction flavor text to give them as to why they're making a choice. So I'm just going to do a print, and you can do this as whatever you'd like, as long as it fits within your story. So I'm just going to say you have entered a cave. Looking ahead, there is a path of water that goes deeper, and to your right is stairs. There you go. Again, super simple. I'm not a writer, but you know, it gets the point. I'm introducing them to the story that this character is now in the cave and he's got choices to make. Perfect. All right, so now that we have our intro, next we're gonna do is we're gonna go into, well, starting the game and letting our players choose what choices they make. Now, this is gonna be done in a form of a while loop. What this pretty much means is that, you know, our players can choose as much choices as they want to make until the game is over. So for example, if I want to walk up the stairs and then go back and then walk up the stairs again and go back and walk up the stairs, so like I can do that repeatedly if I want to. But the game will not end until game over. So while game, as remember the variable that we've set, which is set to true for now. So while the game is still running, we want to do a couple of things. First thing that we want to do is we actually want to grab the text of our choice, or in this case, our outcome. Now, if you remember a few minutes ago where I said the initial start of the game, which is that outcome, that's actually what we want to grab. And we actually want to grab that before we start the while loop. Otherwise, it's just going to keep repeating it. So this one is our outcome ID. And if you look back at our database, that is the third one. So outcome ID equals 3. All right, perfect. So we've grabbed the outcome ID. Let's go ahead and start this loop. So loop start. And from that, what we want to do is we want to grab the text. So we've got the ID, which is the third one, and we want to grab the text from it. So I'm going to go outcome text. Now remember, we set this to a empty string. So now we want to add things to it. And what we want to add is the ones that we've grabbed from our outcomes table. So outcome text equals our outcomes table. And we want to grab the ID. So we want to grab the third element, or the third row. Now remember, in arrays, this starts from 0. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3. So now this is the third one. This is what we want, which was 2 in the arrays. Now we can't just add 2, otherwise, if we want to change the outcome ID, it won't work. It'll continuously try to grab the third row or the second index. So what we actually want to do is we want to get our outcome ID and then minus it by 1. Super simple. And then this time it's a text. Now the text is consistent. So it's either this is the 0 index, the first index, which is our choice, and third, fourth, so on. So we want the second index, or the first index, I should say, second element. So there you go. Outcome text is equal to our outcomes table, outcome ID minus 1, and into our first index on the second dimensional array. All right, so now we've got our outcome text. Now we need to know whether this outcome that we're at has a choice or requires a choice. So choice required equals, now remember how it's 0 or 1, we want to grab that from our choice required section here. All right, so that is the similar thing. It's in the outcomes table, and outcome ID that we want to grab minus 1, and this time it is in the second index or third column. Perfect. Right, so now we've got the text, we've got the choices, the choice required, I should say. Now we got to grab all our choices. So I'm just going to go ahead and do obtain ID of all possible choices. And that is choice 1, for example, equals our outcomes table. Outcome ID, I should say, minus 1. As you can see, there's a sort of pattern happening here, and that's the third one. And it's pretty much the same, except instead of 3, it's going to be the fourth index and the fifth index for our choice 2 and choice 3. So fourth index and fifth index. Perfect. All right, and what we actually want to do is, now that we've obtained all our choices, we want to put them into a list. I'm just going to make another list called choices, and I'm just going to put all our choice there. So choice 1, choice 1, choice 2, choice 3. There you go. All right. So now that we've obtained all the data that we need to fill up our variables, what we need now is, well, we just got to print the text to our player. So print text, and then we'll add a break line. So \n, that's a break line. All right, so if we actually print this now, what you'll see is that it will grab the third row from our outcome ID, and it will grab the text from it. So you choose whether to go straight or right. Now, because this is in a while loop, and because we haven't changed the outcome ID, this will actually continuously repeat the same text. I'll show you that right now. There you go. So it's just gonna keep saying you choose whether to go straight or right. All right, perfect. Hey, okay, so I'll continue the program on the next video, which will be released tomorrow, mainly because it's already been quite a while, and the rest of the video will be just as long. So I'll give you all a break, and yeah, hope to see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.